Kia ora, good morning and g'day. These are interesting times and I certainly didn't expect to be recording my presentation from my office in Aotearoa. COVID-19 and the global implications are massive, particularly for the tourism sector. Just this morning we learnt that Air New Zealand is cutting 85% of its scheduled services. Our industry is reeling and at a time like this it is critical to join together and work collaboratively. A component of my presentation relates to my experience and insights from the eruption of Whakaari White Island and the earthquakes in Christchurch. Both were significant and both were very tragic. We are yet to understand the implications of COVID-19, however, if the early indicators are anything to go by, times are going to get tough. I grew up in Whanganui, and although I haven't lived there since I was 18, which is unfortunately a very long time ago, Whanganui is still so familiar to me and feels like home. And while that was the place of my birth, it is not the only place to hold a special place in my heart. I've also spent many years living in Otatahi, which is Christchurch, and now Te Moanunui Toi, the coastal Bay of Plenty, Tauranga. Living in such spectacularly beautiful places has enhanced my love and passion for tourism. I've also been lucky to work for other organisations whose brand promises have been about living with and in nature, the most well-known being Kathmandu, which invites consumers to live the dream. We all want to live the dream, and in the tourism sector we challenge people to live the dream. But at what cost? This presentation talks you through our journey in trying to stem the negative impacts of tourism on our place. Today I will talk with you about our strategy and how the strategy helped prepare us for one of the most significant natural disasters to impact the visitor economy, with the loss of lives, the injury of many, the demise of a township, and the closing of one of New Zealand's best known tourism attractions and icons. Our visitor economy strategy is called Te Hā Te Poi, meaning the love of tourism. In a nutshell, our love of tourism plan aims to share our love of our place with the world. Nau mai haere mai, welcome visitors with open arms, and most importantly, only those visitors who will love and respect our place too. Then work together to ensure it is not loved to death, and in fact it is regenerated for future generations. Just before I share our plan with you, let's go back a few steps to give you some context. Nationally, we were one of 32 regional tourism organisations responsible for promotion of our region, but operating with weak stakeholder engagement as described by this Destination Next model. Despite tourism being New Zealand's biggest export industry, bigger than farming, our political support comes and goes, and we are seen as a low productivity, low value sector by our economic development peers. We felt like we were running a $39 billion industry virtually blind. We were and are still lacking in good quality research and data. Locally, we didn't have a destination management plan and were only demand focused, without too much care for the visitor experience or supply factors, and without an integrated sector approach. We have reasonably low supply of product and experiences, and what we do have is mostly free. Industry were feeling pretty fed up, undervalued, and not really listened to, therefore disengaged. Community were not aware of the importance of tourism, but also worried about permanent population and visitor growth at the same time. There is no funding available for essential infrastructure, so that funding burden is sitting just with local ratepayers. Tauranga is the fastest growing region in New Zealand, so that partnered with tourism has a huge impact locally. So, a couple of years ago, we decided these brutal facts had to be faced, and we really liked this quote by Fuller. You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. We felt strongly that our consciousness would be raised substantially by lowering our ego and lowering the walls to our patch. Over a period of time, 250 stakeholder meetings were held and 3 questions asked. What value do we add, or what problem do we solve? What are the top 3 things you want to see changed? And if you were Tourism Bay of Plenty, what would you focus on right now? The upshot was, we had no strategy or story. We weren't meeting the needs of the industry, the community, or our funders, and it was pretty safe conclusion that we weren't meeting the needs of the visitors either. So talk about facing brutal facts. The only way forward was to fundamentally change. We needed industry to come on board and be part of the long-term solution, also to be part of the change we all needed to see happen. Tweaks just weren't going to cut it anymore. We needed to have much more strategic conversations and work as a team to create a sustainable future for everyone. The solution had to be collaborative. So this is what our journey over the last 3 years looked like. We worked with a super smart Australasian company called Fresh Info, who helped us with our 10-year strategic framework. This signalled our change to become a DMO. To achieve this required an additional $620,000 in funding per annum. Achieving this was tough, but despite the blood, sweat and tears, we were successful, winning both community and local government support, which enabled us to become a destination management organisation and hire 4 new roles: a Māori Economic Development Manager, a Marketing Research Analyst, a Partnerships Manager, and a Product Developer role to work alongside iwi on cultural product development. It is really important to say that we did not stop promotion during this time, and this change could not have been made without existing resources. Within the community, we needed to find our purpose and work out our role they needed us to play. This is their place to share, and it simply won't work unless it is done in a co-created way. It is akin to having strangers just wander into your house and make themselves at home. We continue to work with Destination Think, which is based on a European and Canadian and Australian based company. They've worked with us to reveal our DNA and have also developed a brand storybook, our resident connection strategy and a tourism for purpose strategy, all fundamental and underpinning the work that we do. The visitor economy has so many stakeholders, and we can seem like a disparate bunch with conflicting views. The community, our Indigenous peoples, industry, central and local governments, and our environment. So it is much like an orchestra, and without a conductor, it doesn't work. So a DMO is critical to making music, and their ethos needs to be one of co-visioning, co-management and cooperation approach across all of the stakeholders. This can often feel impossible. The community and visitors can often seem at two ends of a spectrum, with industry stuck in the middle somewhere. We believe there are 2 human truths that unify us on a common purpose, and that there can be no arguments over this. The first one is love of place. Most people love where they live, and sharing our community's home with the world is deeply personal, as it is their place to share. The issue is they will only do that willingly if they feel involved in the management of their place. Community-led destination management is a big goal, but it is achievable. The second truth is protection for future generations. What our community conversations showed is that their love of place is so great that they want to see it protected for future generations. For those of us with children or grandchildren or even nieces and nephews, which is most of us, there is a deep care and concern for what our children's future will look like, and a deep passion for leaving our places better than we have found it. So these 2 human truths have brought us into a common vision. For tourism to be used as a power for good to our place and community, we need to be adding value and have a community approach, not to be operating in isolation. And this quote from Pamela Mang shows the absolute power of that. Love of place unleashes the personal and political will needed to make profound change. It unites us across diverse ideological spectre, because place is what we all share. It is the commons that allow us to call ourselves a community. Through the consultation we have completed over the last 3 years, the community and stakeholders called us to a bigger vision, a longer term plan. Our vision became share our love of Te Moana Nui a Toi, the coastal Bay of Plenty, with the world. Te Punga is the Māori word for the Southern Cross, which has been used to guide travellers for many centuries. In Māori culture, some believe Te Punga was an anchor of a great sky waka. Te Punga is a guiding light and a source of strength for many. Within Te Ha Te Poi, the love of tourism, we use Te Punga as our guiding light. These 4 stars direct Tebop in everything that it does. Our place DNA and unique whakapapa, which is our history, community inclusivity, transformational experiences, and environment regeneration. Our community felt that sustainability concept has been confused and overused, and it is still short-term thinking to reduce the harm of ongoing practices. They didn't feel that that went far enough at all to protecting the place that we love so much. And so we started to think, how can we fundamentally leave our place better than we found it, and use tourism as a positive transformative power. Guardianship for future generations is not a concept that we can own. It comes from Indigenous Māori culture. They have a beautiful way of viewing the world and doing business. What we're trying to achieve with this plan isn't our thinking. It's very much a return or an elevation of Māori thinking and the values that have been displaced by colonisation or industrialisation. The whole point is to leave the place better for future generations, and tourism has a unique opportunity to do this around the world. This respect of Indigenous thinking has enabled us to build partnerships with our local iwi, and through Kai Hautu, which is our Māori Economic Development Manager, there are 8 new Māori businesses in development within our region. Regeneration will help us combat the new wave of conscious travellers who want to come to a place and do some good to potentially make up for the carbon they've used to get here. During our work with Destination Think, we were informed of a study from Europe that showed New Zealand ranked number 3 in their most desirable destinations to travel to, but when they were asked where they would travel, New Zealand dropped to number 26 in that list. I suspect that Australia has a similar ranking and challenge. Flight shaming is becoming a very real thing, and up to 15% reductions in air travel are already being seen in some markets. It's an interesting time to be recording this because, as you all know, international travel has now completely dropped off, so we have a new reality to face. It is a moral dilemma. I am promoting an alternative model for tourism that focuses on delivering quality and net benefit as opposed to visitor volumes. International tourism cannot continue to grow at the pace it has done in the past without significantly cutting its carbon impact both on the ground and in the air. Offsetting will not be enough either, but to stop flying and collapse tourism would also be utter counterproductive, producing worse environmental results. Flight shame is the prerogative of those persons who do not contribute to what is now a global economy, but who continue to enjoy its benefits. Both blaming and shaming are corrosive and divisive acts that prevent our working together to create better ways of living harmoniously on a finite planet. We're all guilty contributors to an economic and social system that is the cause of our environmental problems. The Bay of Plenty strategy is groundbreaking in that it recognises the critical importance of focusing on delivering net benefits from tourism, i.e. mitigating the costs, and more actively engaging hosts and host communities in stewarding the natural and cultural resources on which tourism depends. Informed and shaped in part by Māori values, this strategy moves beyond sustainability as doing less harm to ensuring individuals, enterprises and places flourish and thrive as a result of attracting and welcoming visitors. So how does this all come together? This is what we call our plan on a page. Tourism is now not just something that happens to us, to our people and to our environment. We turned that on its head and now aspire to make sure that the value it brings really adds value to our place and its people. The value of tourism to the community needs to go beyond economics. It isn't enough just to have visitor spend and jobs created. It needs to be socially, culturally and environmentally valuable also. We must be true to our unique DNA and whakapapa, encourage community-driven visitor management and constantly look at opportunities in collaboration with our communities for improving our environment. What is our new role? We acknowledge it takes a village to raise a child, so it takes a whole community to look after tens of thousands of visitors as well. There are high levels of coordination required of our parties who need to work together to deliberately create a true visitor experience. So our role is to lead, advocate and coordinate on behalf of the visitors and the community. As part of our budget increase, we asked the community if they were happy to pay more rates to have us take this role, and 48.5% said yes. Nobody ever says yes to a rates increase. Such was their desire for someone to manage their home on their behalf that this was just a given. Our new role as destination managers left some of our industry feeling like it was a sudden impending doom of the sector with an overnight drop in their profits. But in fact, what it was giving us an opportunity to manage more than just promotion and take a more holistic approach. Growth is important. Supporting the industry and community with the right visitors at the right time is absolutely our goal. Coordinate the perspectives and expectations of several important stakeholder groups is imperative: the visitors, local residents, Māori communities, industry businesses, government and the environment. Managing our destination holistically by considering our environment, our social responsibility, cultural authenticity, and helping develop unique experiences. Therefore, the role of a DMA must expand and go well beyond just promotion. These 16 core components to destination management are all fundamental to the success of a region's DMO. Creating a point of difference that is authentic and compelling comes from understanding your DNA. So again, with Destination Think, we defined our place DNA through considerable community and industry consultation. Understanding who we are, how the world sees us, and who we should be inviting to share our place with us fundamentally changes everything and how we work. And as Dr. Seuss would tell us, there is no one alive who is youer than you, and our place DNA is very hard to argue. So that is what makes us this is what makes us globally unique. Not any one theme on its own, but the combination of them. They are grounded in our unique history and our whakapapa. This information comes from the perspectives of visitors and has guided us in defining competitive niche markets. Those visitors who want what we can offer, not based on demography or geography or even psychographics, but on passionography. And by passionography, we mean a love of something that unites you with others who also share that same passion. Our 4 DNA themes here in the Coastal Bay of Plenty are oceans and beaches, Māori culture, the natural environment, and horticultural provenance. We are the kiwi fruit and avocado growing capitals of New Zealand. Our DNA then drives our target audiences, which are cultural explorers, outdoor adventurers, eco-travellers, and surf and beach lovers. We have completed extensive research alongside Destination Think on who these people are, and then only now can we start to narrow down and reach our target audiences through demography, geography, and psychographics. Globally, tourism has followed the colonised and then post-war industrialised, commoditised view of growth. As an industry, we have sought growth in terms of visitor numbers, visitor spend, employment, etc. Now is the time to think about the long-term future of this. How sustainable is it actually if we destroy the very thing people are coming to experience? We must find new measurements of the value of tourism and what is valuable to the communities it supports. So our goal has become understanding what makes us uniquely us and who we should authentically be in the world, as well as who we want to invite to visit, changes everything about what experiences developed and how we communicate them. Our DNA now drives our product and experience development and the stories that we tell to attract our target audiences. Storytelling is critical to everything that we do. Our DNA also guides all that we do across our 4 strategies in the next decade. So our strategies are to target the right visitors at the right time with the right messages, to connect with our residents, to enhance the visitor experiences, and to grow capability and increase supply. No matter how carefully we plan and execute, there'll always be things which distract us from our business as usual, and we're certainly finding that at the moment. We have our own unique story which weaves this all together. Ours is a place of positive energy, a rich coastal paradise blessed with raw potential, where cultures embrace and the natural generosity of our people is as abundant as our fertile land and open seas. A place of discovery, our ingenuity, determination and bold thinking connect us to the world. A landing place, a launch pad, the Bay of Plenty a place for you. So the first 6 months of 2019 and 20 concluded with the tragic eruption of Whakaari White Island on the 9th of December. This day will forever be etched in New Zealand's history. Our condolences are with the victims and their families at this time. There is no better evidence of destination management coming to the fore than was displayed at the time of this natural disaster. Collectively, our immediate response was to care for the affected Marahiri, who are our visitors, and to support Whakatane and Te Moananui Atoi, the Coastal Bay of Plenty's visitor economy and tourism operators. The significant event has had and will continue to have an effect on our operations. That said, Te Hautapoi, the love of tourism, is even more valid in the wake of this disaster and will be our recovery plan as we begin to move forward. Our immediate response will be to increase our focus on new product development and investment attraction. Since writing this presentation for you, COVID-19 has changed the landscape again, and we are faced with different realities, however still requiring to focus on the recovery from Whakaari's eruption. Ngāti Awa, the local iwi, which is the Māori community, opened their marae for the families of those impacted in the eruption. Each morning at 10 a.m. they were invited into their whare, which is their home, where there was community karakia, that's prayer, and song. During this time, all of those affected were updated by the police and emergency services outside of the glare of the media. It was a place of peace and love. It was one of the most phenomenally spiritual places I have personally visited in my life, and it mattered enormously to those who spent time there. Matatua, which is this place of worship, remained the spiritual home for those affected for several weeks, and since then we have received letters from those who spent time grieving and worried about their families, that Matatua and the people of Ngāti Awa were their strength during time of huge loss and sadness. Connection with community is essential, and that's one of the very big outtakes that was apparent at the time of the Whakaari emergency. My insights are that emergency management plans are great, but the real deal and how you deal with it is down to intuition as well. So it is important to have an emergency management plan, but you need to respond according to each separate situation. The premise of it takes a village to raise a child transposed to emergency management. It was about a team of people coming together, working together, and looking after one another. It is the place and people of the village community that are hurting and impact. Their voice is imperative, so it's really critical to listen to those that are most impacted. Right at the moment with COVID-19, it is super important that we listen to the tourism operators. It is their livelihood that is currently being challenged. The involvement of Indigenous people has been critical for us. Their support has enabled families to grieve. So the Whakaari eruption on 9th of December tragically killed 21 people. 26 people were seriously injured and still are. The majority of those killed and injured were international tourists. A town has been left devastated. A national icon, tourism icon, is no longer trading, and there is uncertainty for so very many people. Whakatane is off the beaten track. It is not on the main highway and therefore needs to be a fairly significant catalyst to deviate from the main truck line. Whakaari was that reason. It was one of New Zealand's best known tourism attractions. This excerpt from one of the many articles published 2 days following the eruption sums it up and aligns with what you have and are experiencing following the bushfires of Australia. It is not great publicity for the country, but I think visitors are aware that this is a natural disaster and that it's a terrible tragedy, but it's unlikely to be repeating itself very quickly anywhere else in the country. He says the initial impact will hit businesses that are directly involved in selling the region to tourists, but will spread wider than that over time. You'll see restaurants, local food suppliers, gas stations, all of those small businesses in the region that are very dependent on those coming from outside to buy goods and services, said Professor Mill. That is exactly what has happened in Whakatane, and it is now what is going to happen throughout the country as a result of COVID-19. I'm sure that you don't need reminding that keeping central government informed of everything that's happening at local level is critical. In the case of Whakatane, which was the gateway to Whakaari White Island, we have done that and also sought financial support for business continuity and for additional marketing support. We also know that tomorrow there is going to be a government announcement around the support requirements post-COVID-19. These are not yet known. Whakaari White Island was, at the time of the eruption, our region's icon tourism product. It was also one of New Zealand's icon products. The future of the island is unknown, but what is known is that with events like this comes massive uncertainty. Everyone is affected in some way, and a global virus to the mix, and the effect is even more sobering. However, Te Hātepoi provides us the guidance and confidence to modify our marketing focuses while continuing all of the other elements of the plan, and know that we are doing what we can and what we should. Our role is to support the industry and assure them we are doing what we can, utilising the more extensive research we now have as a result of becoming a destination management organisation. Our hearts have ached for and with you for so many months as the fire raged on in Australia. We can only imagine the uncertainty that you have experienced. We feel your pain when we see the wildlife dying, and I know, as a country, we have been doing what we can to support you. Kia kaha, stay strong. And my advice to you at this time of uncertainty is to accept all the help that you can. Work together. Geographic or regional boundaries aren't relevant when people's livelihoods are at stake. Take learnings from others. If you don't have a robust plan, create one using the best expertise you can access. Take breaks. You need to remove yourself from the reality from time to time to be able to see the bigger picture. Be kind. It is not until you are able to look back on this time that you recognise how mammoth it has been and how significantly it alters your perspective. Cherish those who are on the journey with you. Thank you.